Let's talk about some bad child behavior examples. I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, and child development, all through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're going to talk about bad child behavior. In this video, we'll talk about some bad child behavior examples, but we won't stop there. We will also talk about what you can do with these bad behaviors in order to help them turn around. Since children have a variety of ages, what I'm going to do is pick a couple of behaviors for each age category. And just so you know, some overlap will occur in these behaviors because sometimes someone who is 8 is actually doing something that a 2-year-old does. So let's start with some of those toddler behaviors. Toddlers start to test their independence. That's what they do developmentally. They like to see how much power they have, how much control they can have over their home environment. So they start getting kind of a big head and telling their parents what to do. You know, like, no, you need to do this. I need to have this way. Nope, I want the blue plate. No, it has to be blue, because they are starting to make expectations for themselves and follow through. At first, when they're little, they just go from thing to thing, moment to moment, but then they start getting to this phase where they realize they can plan stuff, they can want stuff, they can ask for stuff, especially as they start to develop their vocabulary and their communication. So at this phase, parents often get very burned out when their child starts to tell them what to do. Now, do you see the overlap that occurs with the ages? Because this behavior could carry on, couldn't it? There could be any age child, even into their teen years, that could be telling the parents, no, I want that. I'm not going to do that. You have to do that for me. And starting to order the parents around. This is a roles problem that's happening in families. When your child thinks that they can tell you what to do and that you have to follow through with that, they don't understand who you are and they don't understand who they are. They are not respecting themselves and they're not respecting you, because they're learners, and to respect the learner has to learn. And you're teachers and you're the leaders, and to respect you, they have to actually learn from you and follow your guidance, because you're supposed to be the leader. Now, when they're little, like in their toddler years, and they're starting to order the parents around, they're not necessarily having a roles problem. They're just testing to see how much power they have, and they get a little bit anxious about things that they want, and they want them just so that that anxiety is resolved, so that their expectations are met. Well, we have to continually teach our children to adapt. Parents do not do their child a very good service by giving them every single thing that they ask for. Children should be told no sometimes. They should not get things sometimes. They should have to wait sometimes. They should have to adapt sometimes. Of course, sometimes you also want to, give them some things, especially when they've talked to you in appropriate ways. So what do we do about that particular behavior problem? Well, parents need to teach their children how to disagree appropriately with them. If they want to tell them they would like to have something different, if they would prefer something a different way than the parent presented it, then they need to teach them how to do that. And they can start doing that at very young ages. I have grandchildren who can do it with a couple of words and some hand signs, because they can express to their parents in calm ways things that they need or things that they want their parents to understand about them. Anyway, it's really beautiful to see the anxiety just melt away from the little child when they can get their point across to their parent. But we also have to teach the children how to accept a no answer. That's super important. In fact, at the age in their toddler years when they are telling their parents no, what they really need is to understand no. But we shouldn't be barking it at them all the time and yelling their names at them all the time. Instead, what we should be doing is we should be looking at them in the eye, keeping a calm face, voice, and body, explaining to them, this is a no answer, you need to say okay, all right, let's drop the subject. Teaching them the 4 steps to accepting a no answer is going to be a very beneficial thing. So I've written a lot of books for parents, but I've also written books for children as well. So you can see here are 7 books. There's 4 books that teach the 4 basic skills. This green book teaches accepting no answers. The other books teach following instructions, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. When a person learns all four of those four basic skills, that actually takes care of 99% of their behavioral problems. But I also have these three books here that are all about calmness. They teach children how their brain works with calmness, how to make a calm plan, and how to choose calmness right in the minute when they need it. So helping your children learn through the four basic skills children's books and through the Calm Crew children's books can really be a help as you're trying to help your young ones practice the skills as they grow. Now, one more thing about toddlers and behavior problems is they often repeat the same bad behaviors all the time. They test again and again and again. When they're toddlers, they're learning by repetition mostly. And so you have to be open to the idea that you're going to be correcting the same problem again and again. Just tell yourself that's how they learn. I'm going to pre-teach the right thing to do again and again, and I'm going to be correcting what shouldn't have happened again and again. And I can't take it personal. I can't worry about it. I just have to accept that that's the way they learn at this stage of development in their lives. So pre-teaching is going to be your best friend when you are working with young children. I wish I could go into great detail about pre-teaching, but I will have another resource for you at the end of this video that will help you get more information about that and some of the other skills that we can't go into great detail on here. So what about some of our children that are a little bit older? They're not toddlers anymore. They're starting to experiment with other bad behaviors. Well, some bad behaviors are lying. That happens, right? Being dishonest, trying to get out of trouble, not taking responsibility for themselves. Sometimes trying to get away from responsibility altogether by running off or something like that. These can be very common young childhood behaviors, and these can be handled very easily also using some of our skills of self-government. So if you've pre-taught your children ahead of time those four basic skills that I talked about, those skill sets, and you've taught them exactly how you will correct them, what types of consequences that they will earn. There are some consequences that are better than others. So, make sure that you look into some consequences that will actually help them accept the consequences instead of having just something be done to them, which is not as effective. Then what you would do is you would just go to them and you would correct them. Now, if you're giving them an instruction to do something and they run off, if they don't look at you, keep a calm face, voice, and body, say okay or ask to disagree appropriately, do the task immediately, and then check back. If they miss any one of those 5 steps of following an instruction, then you can correct them for that step. And there's a certain method of correction that I'm going to go into at the end of this video. So what about when they get a little bit older than that? Let's say they're like 10, 11. What's a problem behavior that can happen then? Well, talk back can occur. In fact, let's be honest, talk back can occur at any time. But once they get a little bit smarter, they really are valuing their own intelligence. And when you say something that they haven't heard before, doesn't sound right, or seems unfair to them, then they are going to talk back at you. They want to be understood. That's really what it is, okay? They want to know that you understand them. So make sure that you do always show them that you do understand or that you want to understand. That's a very important message to convey to them. And one key skill that they can use so that they don't have to talk back and start arguing with you, which is not going to help them have very good results, is the skill disagreeing appropriately. So disagreeing appropriately is one of those adult skills that's in those 4 basic skills that every person needs to know. And we know a lot of adults who can't disagree appropriately with other people. So help your child turn into a different type of an adult that they have that skill. You do need to make sure that when they are using their skill that you take time to focus and listen in with them at least the first time that they use it on that one issue. If they're trying to wear you down by using it again and again and again on the same issue, then you can tell them no to disagreeing appropriately. There are some good rules to that. I'll tell you more about that at the end also. Probably one of the most common problems that parents face who have youth or teens in their home is that problem of disconnection, not feeling that same bond that they once felt. Their relationships sometimes get distant, maybe even strained, as that older youth is now starting to go through puberty, their brain's developing, they are now launching into adulthood, they're starting to take on some adult responsibilities, or at least they should. If not, they're going to be having adult entitlements, and that's not good. It's good to take on the responsibilities to earn your adult, benefits that come instead of just having them be handed to you all the time. So when they are at that stage, they get a little entitled, they get a little grumpy, they start being more isolated. That can be hard. So during that time, it's really important to have good open communication, to take time for that relationship. Make sure that you're still using your skills. They can disagree appropriately with you and use those skills, but I think you also need to make a deliberate plan for your relationship and your roles. There's actually a book that I've written called Roles: The Secret to Family, Business, and Social Success. It's one of 15 books, like I said before, that I've written, but that's a great one to read if you've got a teen, and just review with yourself. Maybe even with them, you could do a read aloud and discuss your roles together, because it is a story. It's kind of a fun one to read together. Or another option is you read it and then you do the conversations that the parents in that story, the ones they have with their children in that story, you could have them with your children as well. All right. There are a lot of problems, behaviors that we could talk about. In fact, I think I've just barely scratched the surface. But one thing that you should know is the Teaching Self-Government Parenting program can handle them all. The program was created initially for youth, for teens, ages 12 to 18. I was taking troubled teens into my home, and this is what I used, these same skills. Everything was understood. They knew every word I would say for a correction. I didn't have to make stuff up as I went. I replaced old skills that weren't working with new skills that would work, that would help us be united and end up not having to talk about behaviors all the time, because we all got to a place of self-government. But I also raised my children from babies all the way up, and now my grandchildren are also being raised by their parents with the same skills of self-government. They're learning how to self-regulate and be calm when they're babies, which is huge. In fact, I would say that's probably one of the biggest things across the board, no matter the age, is people don't know how to get themselves calm. They don't know self-regulation. It's actually why I wrote the book, The Power of Calm, because parents, even with skills, sometimes are still struggling with their calmness because they don't know how to process their own emotions and feelings in a way that's healthy, because it's not something they've seen before. We don't know what we don't know. So let me help you know more. I've promised a lot of things at the end of this video, and I'm going to make good on that promise. So I have a video that is a full-length class. It's here on this channel that will give you a lot more information about the things that I've just barely glanced over here on this video. That video is called The Not-So-Known Secret for Parenting Success. Click on the link to that video next. You will learn parent skills. You'll learn the steps to the children's skills. You'll learn how to start setting up your home environment so that you can learn self-government in your family too. Click on The Not-So-Known Secret for Parenting Success next. I'll see you there.